After 40 years serving as a Member of Parliament, my official title is Baron Prescott of Kingston upon Hull in the county of Yorkshire. But you can call me John.
That's it. Oh, you got the job, John.
As a politician, I've spent more time inside factories than most people have had hot dinners. As a kid, you used to dream about a chocolate factory. Well, here it is. But I've never had the time to find out the secrets of how some of our favourite foods are actually made. Until now. Why are you putting jelly in now? So join me as I travel the length and breadth of this glorious county to see just how it's done on a massive scale.
We have over 100 tonnes of chocolate.
We'll make 1.5 to 2 million pies a week.
Heading towards the millions on a busy day. There's a lot of sausages.
I'll be rolling up my sleeves.
I've ruined that one, haven't I?
Getting stuck in.
Slow it down. Stop it.
Meeting the passionate Yorkshire workers.
Best job in the world. All I know is pork pie.
He's brushing it with a moustache as well.
Behind the famous foods that are made in Yorkshire. My journey today starts in Leeming Bar and Yorkshire's biggest pork pie factory, Vale of Mowbray. Us Brits love our pies and pastries, and we spend over £1 billion on them every year. And 170 million of that spend is made up of pork pies.
Hello, John. Hello.
God blimey, the scale of it. Vale of Mowbray make over 220,000 pork pies a day, over 1.5 million a week, which means a staggering 80 million pork pies every year. And the man who's in charge of all those pies is Operations Manager Mark Gatenby.
I've always enjoyed the pork pie.
Yeah.
But when you see the machinery like this, it's a big manufacturing plant. Can you still keep the quality of it?
You're dead right there. The key word is quality. It takes some gear and people to do it. We have about just under 250 people work here.
250?
250, yeah, just around that number. Yeah, we'll make somewhere in the region of 1.5 to 2 million pies a week.
This is pork pie making on a huge scale, and I'm here to see exactly how they are made. 4,000 tonnes of flour a year is used. It's mixed with hot water and fat. The pie's pastry case is made by putting balls of pastry into tins. This is a highly skilled job in itself. So how's it done?
Come on, Mother, show me how you do it.
Taking the pastry, which is a hot water, hot fat pastry, and putting it into tins.
That's quite fascinating, isn't it? Is that the way they've always done it then?
It's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
We've looked at many different ways of automating it, but it's just not quite the same, you know.
Oh, isn't it?
The human hand's much more gentle, and so, you know, we look after the pastry a bit better. That's what we do. These guys will rotate every 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just to give themselves a rest.
Did the lines ever stop them for a cup of tea?
Sometimes, yes, they go for a break.
My first job is working with the queen of the pastry, Mary. She spent almost 2 decades on the factory floors, and she's not waiting for anyone, not even a lord.
When are we starting now?
Right, now.
First of all, Mary wants to see if I can handle the pace with a trial run.
Bit nearer the tin, your hands.
Mary makes 100 pies per minute, and the speed's incredible. I'm never going to keep up.
You have to move that hand a bit faster.
Oh, yeah.
You want to slow it down a bit more, Mary? Slow it down and
Slow it down,
go.
buddy, stop it.
With 120,000 like that, John, and you'll be just about there.
Don't disturb me, I'm doing the job. If you put the speed up, get your finger off that button.
Not off the button.
So my training's over, we're picking up the pace. Full speed. Don't think there's any quality control here. This is turning into a disaster and a sticky pastry mess. Definitely not the job for me.
Have you had enough?
When do you retire in this job?
That is cheating.
to the speed that these lasses are doing, it'll take some time and I'm not there yet. The humble origin of the pork pie was to encase meat in pastry to preserve it. Traditionally, pork pies were made larger to slice and share. But in the 1990s, the Vale of Mowbray introduced mini pies for the consumer to snack on. Today, 60% of all pies they produce here are the smaller size pies, which are made by a very special machine. And project manager Sean, who's worked here for 8 years, is a big fan.
It's my favourite machine just because of the sheer speed of how many we can create. This is high demand mini pies, and this is probably one of the fastest lines we've got here. It's probably the best. This does 16,200 pies per hour. It runs 10 hours a day. That's 162,000 pies a day.
That's over 1 million pork pies a week.
We don't mess about on this line.
I best steer clear then, as this machine costs £1.2 million.
These are heated rings so that the pastry doesn't break.
This machine was made in Britain and weighs over 5 tons. It took 6 engineers 3 weeks to build it here in this factory.
We can do an astronomical amount on this line. This line will be the busiest line in the factory. 60,200. That's a lot of pies in an hour.
I'm excited to learn more about how the pork pie is actually constructed, but incredible to see such a feat of engineering.
I'm glad to know the old good old human hand can work, but the machine's better at the end of the day.
Later in the programme, we'll go from pork pies to cheese, as I'll be continuing my tour of Yorkshire and heading into the Dales to help make one of the county's most famous food exports.
You can see the whey coming through, that's well ready, that.
Yorkshire's iconic Wensleydale cheese.
It's a wonderful feeling, really.
I'm John Prescott, and this is my home county of Yorkshire. My 2 passions in life have always been industry and food, and I'm on a journey to find out how some of the county's finest produce is made. Already I've been amazed by the speed of production at Yorkshire's biggest pork pie factory.
Have you put the speed up?
I'm not.
Get your finger off that button.
Don't slow it down a bit more, Mary.
Slow it down, bloody stop it.
And now I'm heading into the heart of the Yorkshire Dales, to the small market town of Hawes, home to the world-famous Yorkshire Wensleydale cheese. We're a nation of cheese lovers, and us Brits get through a staggering 700,000 tonnes of it every year.
That's a beautiful cheese, that I would put that in a show.
Yorkshire Wensleydale has been made around these parts since the 12th century, but the first creamery in Hawes was built in 1897. In 2015, Yorkshire Wensleydale opened a new creamery, and today they make 80 tonnes of the stuff a week. And I'm going to see what goes into making it.
It's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, what is the process? Is this the finished product?
I'm getting ahead of myself here. The first step in making Yorkshire Wensleydale starts out in the field with these cows. The milk that goes into making the cheese comes from 45 local farms and delivered by a tanker to the creamery here in Hawes. I'm meeting Trevor, who's worked here for 15 years. He's responsible for the second and most critical part of the process.
We start at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Milk's pasteurised. We have a flow rate about 14,000 litres an hour.
That's a lot of milk.
He's kick-starting the transformation of milk into cheese using science.
And that's pasteurised milk. There's
That's
nothing
what-
else being put in it.
Nothing
That's the
yet.
basic product.
Yep. We'll go and give this a test.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thought you were going to ask me to drink it.
Throughout the cheese-making process, Trevor tests the acidity levels. Too high or too low on the pH scale, and the cheese won't have its unique flavour and texture.
You'll see it going like a pinky colour.
Oh, I
You
see.
see it turning.
Yeah.
15,000 litres of milk, and we're putting in 525 litres of starch culture.
The next step of the cheese-making process
is to add a starter culture. This is a good bacteria like a natural yogurt, and it causes a reaction souring the milk.
So it's not just a bit of milk in a bucket then and producing cheese, is it?
No, they can do that as well, though. They do that.
The starter culture is grown and nurtured in the creamery's own lab, and it's vital that the lab technician, Carol, gets it spot on.
The skim milk has been sterilised this morning to take out the bad bacteria and the bacteria we don't require. We then feed them with our own unique cultured bacteria that make our unique Wensleydale cheese. It's like a recipe. If you get this part wrong, you don't make good cheese.
The starter culture is added and stirred into the milk, which begins to sour it.
Now we'll pour this in.
The next stage of the cheese-making process is to add rennet.
There's 11,000 litres in now.
This enzyme, which helps the milk to set, gives it a jelly-like consistency.
The rennet is now mixing everywhere, and once I turn it off after 3 minutes, that's when it'll start to set.
It's incredible to see this cheese being made. It was nearly extinct. During World War II, as part of the rationing, all the milk from this area was used to make government cheddar. This ban on any other cheese being made continued for 9 years after the war. Since then, the production process hasn't changed much, but today there's no mistaking when it's ready for the next stage.
See, we're flashing now, John, so that's warning me we're ready.
Oh, I see.
So I'll turn that off, because I'm here.
Well, you can see it's quite set, can't
Right,
you?
yeah. I'll just put my hand in.
Ah, yeah.
You see, do you want to put your hand in? You can see the whey coming through, that's well ready, that.
Well, there it is. See how it's changed in that half an hour since we've been away from this. Wonderful.
We're going to cut this now, John, with the stirrers.
Oh, I
Shut this
see.
up, yeah.
So you get more chunks of it.
Yeah.
Once the curds have been cut, the next step of the process is to empty the vats onto massive steel tables so that the whey can be drained off.
What am I doing here? I know I'm picking out the
Help me
cheese.
get the whey off, because obviously it does need some help. You can't just leave it.
After half an hour of draining, most of the whey is gone, leaving over a ton of curds on the table.
Well, there it is. I've always heard about curds and whey, but here we've got it all developed in this way as the next stage on that. There is no smell. It looks intriguing, exciting, and I'm looking forward to how they're going to move it onto the cheese.
The next step is to add salt. Salt is added to the curds to slow down the starter culture, helping the flavour to develop and act as a natural preservative.
Now this is essential for fish and chips.
Yeah.
And you're telling me now it's essential for the Wensleydale Yorkshire cheese.
That's correct. Lactic acid of the cheese is now at 0.61, so now we're going to put the salt on.
With a ton of curds on each table, when it comes to salting it, we are going to need more than just a sprinkle.
We'll have a go.
Yeah.
Each batch gets up to 3 buckets.
Go for it. Loads on, that's it. Spread it right out though, John. Right. That's it. Oh, you got the job. We'll leave it running now, so it gets a right good mix in.
I see.
A right good mixing. Finally, Trevor's talking my language. But now the curds are starting to look less like cheese and more like another food.
Now it's been salted, it's been mixed in. We'll do like the called the chicken breast test, where you look, it comes apart. That's what we're running like.
Now it's beginning to identify the consistency of the cheese.
That's correct.
Right, so what's the next stage in that then?
The next stage in the process is milling, where the curds are broken down into smaller pieces and put into moulds.
We're now filling the whales.
Which I call the bucket. Why do they call them whales?
It's like scrambled eggs, John.
Exactly, isn't it?
So if you want to get a whale,
Alright.
right, we're going to weigh them now, yeah?
So I can't shortchange it, you've got to be a certain weight,
Oh,
have you?
yeah.
So it's the good old hands that work it again, is it? What do you need?
470.
After the curd's been weighed,
That'll be it, won't it? Yeah.
it's time to wrap it in cheesecloth and put it back in the mould. The next step of making Yorkshire Wensleydale cheese is stacking the moulds together, putting them in a press where the final drops of the whey are squeezed out.
4 hours ago, that curd was milk and we made it into cheese. So that'll stay in for 2 days.
And the cow's out in the field now, getting ready for the next
For
step.
tomorrow morning, yeah.
And while the cheese is left in the press, in the Vale of Mowbray, they're making pork pies on a massive scale. Making 80 million pork pies a year means that this factory here in Leeming Bar runs for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I've seen the first part of this pie making process, where flour is mixed with fat and hot water to make pastry, which is then put in tins.
It's the success of the pie to me, is the pastry.
Definitely. We get letters off customers there. I really like the crispy pastry.
Back on the factory floor, production manager Cherie, who has worked here for 20 years, is going to show me the rest of the process, but there seems to be a walkout going on.
Have I walked into a strike yet? Is this a strike?
Panic over, it's just the end of the shift for some of the workers.
Hi. Sorry. Oh, get out of the way, I'm holding it up.
John, you filled the tin out over there when you was Mary.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we take it into one of our chillers and we chill it down to about 18 degrees.
Another secret to producing a perfect pie is to cool down the warm pastry.
And that's the start
Nice
of
to
the
make the
process.
material more manageable.
That's
is it,
right,
when
yeah.
you
So you can press it down. It chills it right
and so
down.
you get the shape properly.
That's right, yeah.
If it had gone straight from there, it would
It
have been a
would be
bit
too soft,
messy.
yeah,
too
yeah.
soft.
We have on the machine what we call blockers. It comes down and it presses it.
So we're now entering into full machinery.
That's right, yeah. This is the start of the pie now, yeah.
Yeah.
Once the pastry's been shaped into the inside of the tins, the next part of the process is adding the meat. Over 3,000 tonnes of pork a year goes into the pies, with shoulder and belly pork being minced, seasoned and put into the pastry case, but something's missing.
Where do you get the crackling?
You don't. So what we've got here, we have lid pastry. And that lid pastry goes into this machine
Is
up
that
here.
the same pastry
No,
though?
no, that's different. That's for the lid. So that's a cold pastry.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah? So the base is a hot pastry and the lid's a cold
Oh, I
pastry.
see.
It gets rolled into 2 rollers. So
Ah.
it'll either come out with a lattice lid or it'll come out a full lid.
So even if the meat's sticking out like that, when they come to cut it,
It comes off
It
along
cuts
here.
off, right.
It cuts off, yeah. And this is where it gets its crimp on it, its lid. You can see that's coming down and that's crimping it now.
so how long will they be working on this line?
This line have been running from 5:30 this morning and it'll run to 4 o'clock this evening.
Yeah, but how long are they doing that?
They go round every half hour around the line.
Do they?
Yeah, they rotate every 30 minutes. So they're getting ejected off the platen now and they're going on to the baking tray in a minute.
In the tin?
In the tin, yeah, and then they come through this glazer there, look.
Once the meat's in the pie and the lid's been crimped on, the pies get glazed with egg.
Don't you do it with the brush?
So, and then it goes in the oven.
Once the pies have been made, the next step to create a perfect pork pie is baking. And as you would expect for pie making on an industrial scale, they go into huge ovens, in their thousands, and baked at 200 degrees for 40 minutes. Although Vale of Mowbray relies heavily on their state-of-the-art ovens and machinery to produce the pies, over 250 staff are needed to run the factory.
Is everything okay today? Well done. Keep up the good work.
One of the longest-standing employees is Sue, who is the production supervisor.
29 years I've worked here. I only came to work here for Christmas. It's a day-to-day job, it's like just making sure all the production gets done and staff morale and everything's all okay. How are you doing there, Dave? Good. Are you enjoying your job? Yeah, good lad. You alright, Marianne? I get on with all of them. They're all really good workers. Yeah, you alright, yeah? When I first started here, it was one little small bakery, maybe 10,000 pies a day. And we used to come into work and
make a standard pork pie, Sue's going to show me how to make a different variety. It has a secret ingredient inside, and I might have come across them before.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to show you how we put eggs in.
Put eggs.
Come on, I'll show you. Come on.
Eggs? I've had enough problems with smashed eggs in the past, but I'm relieved to see at least these are hard-boiled. And every year, the factory gets through 2.5 million of them.
Do you want to have a go?
All right. Started this way, I might as well finish it off.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll show you how I do it, like this, yeah? I'm left-handed. I'll have a go.
Okay.
Don't be thrown in. It's not as easy as it looks busy.
You've got to learn the act of shoving it right down, haven't you?
Yeah.
This is harder than Sue makes it look, and I've got to be careful, otherwise my fingers will be in the pie and not the eggs.
It's not working. It comes too quick. I can't do it.
Shall I stop
How
you
many
now?
takes? I can't get it through.
Shall I show you how we used to do it in the olden days? We used to get a meatball like that, get an egg. That's easier, isn't it?
Yeah, they are. I'm old labour.
We'll make you a good one so you can eat it later on, eh? I'm going to put a lid on it now. Right, that's your egg pot now. I know you've been trying really hard, but can you see how many rejects you've made?
Bloody hell.
Who would have thought you could cause so many problems with eggs?
Like in the pastry, you almost become part of the machine. Now the machine is doing a lot more here, but basically you've still got to get that sensitivity to stick the egg in the middle, cover it in the time before the machine's taking it away from you.
Coming up, I'll be back at the Horse Creamery to find out what Yorkshire Wensleydale cheese goes through, all in the name of flavour.
So we've got needles either side. That's going to pierce the
It
cheese.
gets knocked about, this cheese,
It
doesn't
does, yeah. But it is Yorkshire cheese.
So it takes it.
Beautiful.
I'm John Prescott. I love Yorkshire. It was the place that made me. But there's two other loves in my life. The stuff we make and the food we eat. I'm on a journey to uncover the secrets of how some of Yorkshire's best foods are made. And earlier I saw what happens when you mix milk, science and a bit of good old-fashioned know-how to make Yorkshire's iconic Wensleydale cheese.
Well, there it is. See how it's changed in that half an hour since we've been away from this. Wonderful.
Of the 4,000 tonnes of Yorkshire Wensleydale that is made every year, 90% is cut, packaged and sold across the world. But 10% comes here to the maturing room. The head of product development, Phil, is going to give me a tour.
Morning, John. Well, this is our maturing room, and this is one of our most favourite rooms in the creamery, and the best room.
Wonderful. It is really a living product, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, and what we're still allowing the cheese to do is to mature, and really it's all about flavour development and maturation. So some of these cheeses here are 2 years old, and the longer you mature them, then the deeper the flavour.
It's great to see so many varieties in here, but it wasn't always like this in the cheese world. In 1994, the Milk Marketing Board was abolished. Now, farmers could do what they wanted with their own milk, and many turned it into cheese, and the British cheese explosion began. By 2010, over 700 specialist cheeses were made in the United Kingdom. 70 of these were blue. Graham has worked at the creamery for 10 years, and he has a special job. He turns this white cheese blue. What are you going to do to this?
Right, this is the cheese that's come out of the dairy to me, and it's been in here for about 10 days, and I'm going to pierce it. So we've got needles either side. That's going to pierce the cheese.
It gets knocked about, this cheese, doesn't
it? Does.
Moulding
It does,
up, they put
absolutely,
it
yeah,
there,
yeah,
and
but,
different temperature.
Yeah, but it is Yorkshire cheese. So it'll be fine.
So it takes it.
It's going to be blue cheese, but it's white as it comes out of the dairy. But they've added the Roquefort penicillin into the vat. Now, unless we put air into the cheese, that won't start to mould. It won't it won't work. It just won't work. So the cheese will stay white. So we need to aerate the cheese, and that turns the cheese into the blue cheese, putting the nice veined effect inside it. The blue veins in. Beautiful.
So do you have to be a scientist to do cheese?
Cheese making is a science and an art. So the science is, well, you know what should be happening. You had quantities which are the same, but because it's living product, then the art of the cheesemaker is making sure he follows that process and develops the right cheese.
Yeah, yeah.
No, there's a lot of care and attention.
It's fantastic. Very fantastic. How did they do that years ago then? They didn't have that machine.
Well, I have actually heard it was done by accident. I don't know if this is true or not. It was dropped on the floor and it cracked itself, which let the air in and blew it up. I don't know.
But they didn't go around with a hammer and nail and put all of it out.
We do it by hand. We have done it by hand.
So it's time for me to turn this cheese blue. But even this low-tech machine is confusing.
Oh, it must be a button somewhere, isn't
I'm sorry, John. There's two buttons down here.
Oh, I've got it.
But they have to both at the same time, please. For
I knew it would be complicated.
Yeah. Safety.
There we go. Just keep.
Oh, I see. Oh, you keep hold on it.
Only for a couple of seconds.
Oh, I see. Is that enough done for that?
And you've got to move it or what?
It's enough done for that cycle.
Oh, I see.
Slide that open.
Oh, you turn it over?
Well, just turn it a quarter of a turn, John.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Just like that, that's all, really.
Yeah.
Back on the slide. Shoot.
Sliding it, put the two together, keep it a couple of seconds. When I see cheese now, I'm never going to feel the same about it.
No, there's a lot more effort. Well, you're part of the process now.
That's finished now, John. Well done. Back on the shelf. We'll turn it periodically every 8 to 10 days, and after about 5 weeks-ish, it's ready for the table. 6 weeks, 7, 8's about beautiful.
It's been amazing to see what goes into a lump of cheese in Yorkshire, but this county also has a long history in producing pork pies too. In 1795, the factory started as a brewery and a butcher's before turning their hand to making pork pies in 1928. Despite rationing, during the Second World War, production of pork pies continued at the Vale of Mowbray, thanks in part to the agricultural pie scheme, introduced by the Ministry of Food. It meant that farm workers were provided with pies to give them the strength to dig for victory. After the end of rationing, the production of pies continued to rise. In 1989, the sale of pork pies hit 100,000 per week, but a fire in 2002 destroyed the factory. A year later, the new factory here in Leeming Bar was built, and it wasn't long before they were making 1 million pies a week. I'm keen to see what happens on the other side of the ovens after the pies have been baked and the next stage of the pork pie making process. But first, a quick change.
Okay, put your shoes here, and we've got this red hat cover here. You have to be going a bit faster than this.
I better get my togs on quickly, or it won't be just Mark who I'm annoying. His dad, John, is the owner and managing director, and he's already doing his daily walkabout.
Afternoon, guys. How's the pies looking? Not bad, yeah, they're all right, aren't they? Yeah. We just need to be able to get them on the shelves like this, don't we? We'd sell twice as many more. Yeah, take care anyway, well done.
John started here at the age of 18 and quickly moved into management.
My first job in management was actually sausage foreman. As a sort of 20-year-old boy with 20 girls and 2 guys making about 50 tonne of sausage a week.
After a brief spell supervising sausages, John moved into the manufacture of goods, which included pork pies, where fate moved him up the career ladder.
One Friday evening, I was still at work, and the guy who was looking after the manufactured goods, his wife phoned up to say, "Is my husband there, Johnny?" I said, "Well, I'll go and have a look." So anyway, I wandered around the factory, couldn't find him. So I just said to her, "I can't see him, he's not here." Only to learn next morning that he'd run off with one of the girls out of the pie room, and they'd got the train from Northallerton station and disappeared south, and never to be seen since, really, and I was promoted into his job.
Every cloud and all that, eh, John?
There's still quite a lot of craft goes into making a pork pie, and to some degree that's what I like about it, you know. Like most people, and I think in business, you've got to have a passion about what you do, and we like the pork pies. I'll eat a pork pie most days,
certainly 3 or 4 days a week. You're here a long time at work, minimum 8 hours and sometimes 12, you know, so it wants to be an enjoyable experience. We'll see you here more than your wife or your partner does, you know.
After 50 years in the business, surely you were tired of these pies.
No, you don't get sick of pork pies. It's impossible.
Who'd have thought there'd be so much passion in pies?
Right, well, let's go in.
Once the pies are baked, they're checked against the colour chart.
When the boys pull the pies out of the oven to check, they're looking for a colour which is acceptable colour and not acceptable.
So we're aiming for this, are we?
Yeah. So do you want to have a look at these pies and tell me what you think's acceptable on here? So do you think they're the right colour?
Almost, but a little light, aren't
A little bit lighter.
Yeah.
They look good and tasty.
Look at that. Just the job.
And then it's time for the next step in the process that makes a pork pie totally unique.
Why are you putting jelly in now then?
2 reasons. One, it gives it flavour, and you get different flavour jellies. So at Christmas we get a cranberry flavour, which is red. Yeah. And it also keeps the pie moist, because without jelly in a pie, it's a very dry pie.
So now I know why they put jelly in, but I'm intrigued to know how.
So this is what we call our hand jellying. That's the way I used to jelly pies when I first started. So what he's doing there is jellying into the cavity of the wall, can you see?
Yeah.
And what that does, that sends the jelly right round the pie. The pie's cold, the jelly's hot.
Because it's liquid, it moves all around the system.
Yeah, and it sets quite quickly actually.
The bigger pies are injected by hand, but the smaller pies are injected by machine. And the man with more experience than anyone else in this business is Cliff.
He's our jelly baby, so he'll
He's the
talk you
jelly
through
baby.
it.
He's got not much jelly on him, is there?
Powdered gelatine is added to boiling water to make this jelly, with the factory getting through over a ton of it in a week.
And you don't put too much in it, go be a big chunky jelly.
That's it, you'll go like
getting the
chewing
balance.
one,
Yeah. Teeth will be bouncing off it. How long have you been here for?
I've been here about 17, 18 years.
What did you first do when you came in here?
I used to be a D-tinner.
Did you?
Yes, that's where I came from.
You ended up here. This is where the most skill is needed, is it?
Yes, you
Of course
eventually.
you're gonna say that.
I've got to say it, haven't I? Right, there we go, John. So that goes right in there like that. Push that right in. There we go. If you press that blue button there, John, on again. There we go.
Oh, I see.
So you see, it does it half,
Yeah.
and then it pushes them that little bit again. And there we go.
So it's had 2 punches.
Yeah, and that's,
Has it just done every one of them?
yeah, quick, isn't it?
It's remarkable.
You can do a truck every 4 minutes.
How many's here? 1, 2, 3, 4,
There's
5.
about 800 to 900 pies on a truck.
Yeah, how many would you have
4
done if
minutes.
you'd have been doing it by hand?
Oh, right, could you imagine?
You see all this machinery.
Yeah.
Does it make it a better working practice?
I don't know, but I like the good old times. But no, it's improved tremendously, the machinery. And,
Yeah.
you know, we couldn't do the job, really.
When I see a pork pie again in the fridge that my wife bought and I'll go to eat it, I'll look at it again, thinking of all the process of making it.
The biggest perk of working in a pie factory is getting to taste the pies. Every day, different members of the staff come here to the tasting room, and today I've bagged myself a seat on the panel.
Okay, John, this is our taste panel. We've got all the team here.
I think this is the one you put the egg in the pie.
Well, that means it'd be sticking up.
If it's got to the centre, I'll never believe it.
And the question is, how did I get on with my biggest challenge of the day?
Come on, I can't wait anymore. Let me see if I got an egg in the
So
ruddy
the
centre.
key thing with a large rib egg is that when you cut it into quarters, ideally there should be a piece of egg in each of the quarters.
That's why you were taking so many of mine and putting them aside and dealing with them later.
Oh, we got a drum roll.
There we go. Everyone gets a piece of egg.
Perfect. It didn't seem like that when I was doing it.
Looks great on the plate, doesn't it?
One thing sort of with pork pies that we've kind of seen over the last few years is its growth as more of kind of an event food. And so you get people who have pork pie wedding cakes, or start to see sort of large slicing pies being served on a dessert trolley in restaurants.
Dessert one?
Yeah.
You mean eat a meat pie as a dessert?
Yes.
I've not been to any of them dudes like
It's the starter after the dessert.
You can't beat that.
Back at the cream creamery in Hawes, I've noticed there's a new modern addition to cheese making. And I'm keen to ask David, the managing director, about it.
So why did you put cranberries in it then?
Well, cranberries are an innovation, so...
So you are looking for a new kind?
Absolutely. We've got a fantastic history, we've got 1,000 years of history, but we're also thinking today, what's the next trend?
David must be barking up the right tree as they sell 1,000 tonnes a year of cranberry cheese, which makes up a quarter of the sales of all Yorkshire Wensleydale. There's still one job left for me to try. Coming up, I'll be trained in the finer art of cheese sniffing.
Oh, that's a very mature smell, isn't it? Lovely.
I've always had a passion for Yorkshire manufacturing and food, so now I'm on a journey to uncover the secrets of how some of Yorkshire's best foods are made. Earlier, I saw how cheese is made.
Do you have to be a scientist to do cheese?
Cheese making is a science and an art. There's a lot of care and attention.
It's fantastic.
And now I'm back in the maturing room at the Hawes Creamery. I'm hoping that the cheese grader Norman is going to give me a taste.
35 years I've been at the dairy grading cheese. Love it. Great job.
This is our grader, Norman, who's been
You
on
don't
many
look
years.
like a grader. No. Pleased to meet you. So what are you going to tell us about?
Shall we start with the Wensleydale?
Absolutely, that's where it all begins, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm just going to iron the cheese.
Iron the cheese? I don't even iron my trousers. And now we're tasting a cheese that's been maturing for 6 weeks.
We take a core of cheese out of the block. Have a nice smell of it. Yeah, some lovely flavours in there. If you want to try a bit of that, nice stick of chalk. That's
It is nice, isn't it?
So if you want to try it, very crumbly texture. Lovely young milky lactic flavours.
It's got a consistency that's very nice. It breaks up in your mouth, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Melts in your mouth, it does melt.
It melts the proper word.
Yeah.
And that honeyed aftertaste, that sweetness, I mean, that all comes from the milk in the area we are. So it is distinctive.
This cheese, this is made much slower.
Oh, yeah.
This cheese is 20 weeks old. There we go. There's that lovely coating of fat. Some lovely flavours coming through.
Ah, you can see, almost feel the sticky consistency, can't you, as soon as you touch it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very mature smell, isn't it? Lovely.
You can see the rind as well on that.
Yeah, you got your rind there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the bandage. And
people don't eat the rind, do they? But they're kind
it
of
is a
impressed.
choice. It is a choice. Some people decide not to eat the rind, but all it is really is concentrated curd.
So the rind is a bit like the cork in the bottle of wine. It gives you an indication of what is happening.
Yeah, that's a good description. To be honest, that is our most popular cheese in the shop, yeah. People love that texture and that flavour.
It's beautiful.
It is
it's very nice.
My favourite cheese. Yeah, that goes back in, yeah.
Is that a discounted cheese now?
No, that actually makes it more expensive because it's been checked.
And now it's time to taste the cheese that Graham has magically turned blue.
I'm lucky. I get to taste the end product from all those skilled cheesemakers.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, so
look at that.
Beautiful.
That's what happens when you're punching all them nails in it.
That's right.
And that's the avenues they go down proceeding.
Yeah, so the air's gone in, and that's where you can see then the mould has developed.
Wonderful.
And that's also changed the texture, which we were talking about earlier on.
And Norman's giving this cheese the special treatment.
He's brushing it with a moustache as well.
Don't talk about that.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way.
Bring it nice and smooth and creamy.
That's lovely. That's beautiful. I really like that. Can't wait for the next one. Is that the next one?
Yeah, we've got the blue 16 to look at as well, John.
Yeah. Ah, it's crumbling more, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
I never thought I'd say it, but
I like the blue. Different taste and very distinctive taste.
Exactly.
It's very distinctive. I think they all are.
Fantastic.
But there's so many, isn't there?
And that's what makes the cheese rolls exciting.
to come in here into the maturing room as a mature man, but basically fascinating, and I would say congratulations for a good old Yorkshire product. It's been a fascinating journey of discovery, and I'll never look at pork pies or a block of cheese in the same way again. It really has been incredible to see the stages of the manufacturing process and how quality products are made on a massive scale right here in Yorkshire.
Our love of all things Yorkshire continues tomorrow night at 9 with New Housing Yorkshire, Somewhere to Call Home, and the team putting roofs over heads. Over on 5 Select next tonight, we're headed for the great outdoors, where it's pretty nippy in Yorkshire again in the wild. Next tonight here on Channel 5, Becky Watts, Killed for Kicks.